This episode is brought to you by Terra Nova, Home for the Elderly. And this space is created by a lady from the diaspora or people from the diaspora who understand the needs of the diaspora moving back from the US and other places around the globe to Ghana and currently living here. Most people came back retirement for their retirement, and sometimes not having a family member here is sometimes challenging. If you are sick or the elderly at your home is sick, and you have to go to work, you can't just leave them alone. So you need to, find places like Terra Nova Homes where you can, sign up. They have nurses who are certified, also in CPR training, very friendly, who can take care of the elderly with passion. Not just anyone just wanting to just do it for the money, but people who are dedicated with the craft and everything. And they are located in Tema, Community 20, very close to medical facilities. So you don't have anything to worry, very beautiful place. And yeah, check them out. Their name will be on the screen. Their telephone numbers will also be on the screen and also in the description, as well as their GPS or their landmark. So it will be very easy to look at them. Hello and welcome back again to another amazing episode. This is the Diaspora Transition episode where we interview people who moved back from the diaspora and currently living on the continent. And on this episode, we have here a young, amazing woman. She's an entrepreneur. She's also a lecturer at Ashesi University teaching entrepreneurship and also a lead for African Women Amplified, which is AWA for short. And I'm so honored to have her on the show today. So without further ado, Madam Joel Thompson, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me, Hayford. I'm happy to be here.
I've heard a lot about you.
Oh, good.
Right? People are watching you for the first time.
Yes.
I know who you are. You're a lecturer, a businesswoman, and an entrepreneur.
Yes.
The portfolio is amazing.
Thank you.
Those watching you for the first time who don't know who you are, can you briefly introduce yourself to the people?
Most definitely. Thank you for having me, Hayford. Hello, everyone. My name is Joel Nana Thompson, and I'm so happy to be here. I moved back home almost 5 years ago from Atlanta. And by day, I am a lecturer. I teach entrepreneurship at Ashesi University, where I teach a first-year course called Foundations of Design and Entrepreneurship, where we're teaching students how to think critically and solve problems creatively and coming up with solutions that they can use in their own communities. Of course, instilling that entrepreneurial mindset. By night, I am passionate about all things social impact. So I am a social impact strategist. I founded an organization called Echo Launch, where I'm supporting local businesses to grow into more global markets. And so with that, beyond that work, I'm doing a number of things in our Ghanaian entrepreneurship ecosystem. You're going to hear me say that a lot because I'm super passionate, because I feel as though entrepreneurship definitely drives economies. And the one thing I'm super passionate about today is the project I'm leading called AWA, which is African Women Amplified. So here I am, happy to share more about this journey.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Your portfolio is just... Wow, so let me ask you this. Let's just backtrack a little bit. You said 5 years ago you moved to the continent.
Yes.
Why would you leave America for Ghana? Why would you do something like that?
Oh my goodness. So leaving America for Ghana, it starts ideally with me being, or what I consider, a global citizen. I am Ghanaian through and through.
Right.
My mother is an Achim. My father is from the Ashanti region. And, ever since I was at home in the States, there was nothing for me that my mom didn't make feel as though Ghana was within me, right? And so although I wasn't born in Ghana, this was an opportunity for me when I would come home to see, okay, what can I do? How can I contribute? How can I make sure the culture itself is amplified? And so beyond just being in America, when I went to business school, a portion of my studies, I did that globally. So I studied in Paris, I studied in Brazil, I did some work in China. And so looking at this perspective of understanding how a lot of these economies move, it made me realize there was a way I can come home and make some form of a contribution. And that was through academia, and it was also through the development of entrepreneurial ecosystems.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. You're very woke, I would say. But what triggered that for you? Why? Since when did you become very caring? Because most Ghanaian leave it is like, I'm not going back to that continent. I'm in the paradise, I'm not going back. I don't even care what problem happened on the continent. I'm in paradise, I'll stick to it. But you started developing ideas, using what you've learned in the US to come back to the continent and solve some What triggered that?
Definitely. I mean, for me, what triggered that experience was when I was in the United States, I was working as a business development counselor. And so in that, I was already working with a lot of startups under a particular non-for-profit organization. And I saw the capacity of my people because I was working in low-income communities, helping them jumpstart their businesses. And I said, you know what? I want to know what entrepreneurship looks like back home. What's happening? And this is before everybody took a beautiful trip to Wakanda. But really, honestly, this was something where I knew our continent in particular had potential. We have brilliant minds. And I was saying to myself, there has to be something at home. And I wondered, how would I be able to uncover that? And that was going to be through research, which is why I did a career shift from actually being within the industry and switching towards academia and choosing to go the path of pursuing my doctorate. And I said to myself, I can't do research about the continent or about Africa and be in the States, right? Because that's a really privileged.
Have to be at a source.
Exactly. It's a very privileged, myopic perspective of me talking about what needs to happen on the continent when I'm not on the ground.
Right.
And so that made me come home, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Wow, that's amazing. So you were born in the US. You've never been together, but never. Or do you used to go back?
I used to travel, yes. So my mom, my dad, they used to bring me back here. But the time, like when I was young, right? We used to be in Dansuma. And then after that, it wasn't until I was about 16 or 17 that we came home. And I had that epiphany where I was like, there's something here. It was years ago. I won't tell my age, but it was years ago. And from that moment on, I came back home fired up, and I actually started my own not-for-profit at the time, which was called Ghana Youth United. Wow. And the intention was to bridge communication through volunteerism between those within the diaspora and those who were in the continent. And so I did that, started at about 18. And then from there, I went on with some friends of mine to produce a conference called Young African Leaders Conference. Wow. And so we held that in Atlanta, I think it was back in 2010. And the idea was, again, to foster this conversation about the possibilities of what was happening back home. And of course, back then you would find that not a lot of people were excited about being back home. It's met with its problems. And like you said, most viewed the United States as our place of paradise, but we have paradise here as well.
Yeah, and for entrepreneurship, I heard women are most 51% or 50 plus, women are more likely to become entrepreneurs compared to men.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Why is that? Why is that the case?
So it's very interesting. We've seen a lot of reports that were showing that women on the continent in particular, globally, start their businesses more here. Wow. In Nigeria, Botswana, Angola, Ghana. And Uganda, actually. These are the countries where you're seeing a lot of women entrepreneurs starting their businesses. But the reasons why they're starting them come from more of a survivalist capacity. So you have a lot of these businesses in the informal sector that are transitioning now into the more formal sector. And by informal, these are our amazing women of the market, right? So these are the ones where they're running their business, but it's not traditionally captured, like the formal sector that we see here. But there's opportunity because at the end of the day, you have a household to take care of. Right? At the end of the day, you're thinking about how can I make a life better for my child? Right. Or for most women or women coming up now, it's how can I create a legacy?
But why do you think it's so hard for women to succeed in their businesses these days, though?
I would say particularly it's challenging for women to succeed because we do live in somewhat of a patriarchal society, right? Where you have seen the man as the headship. When it comes to CEO, sometimes it's synonymous with a male figure. In the United States, that may be synonymous with a white male figure. And when you see that level of power, you don't see that distributed to the woman. Right. So oftentimes you see women, we're more in secretarial positions, these very secondary supportive situations because we're the nurturers, we take care of the home. But the reality is that we're just as equally powerful and have the similar capacities. But a lot of these kind of tendencies and biases has been interwoven into our business practices. So it's difficult for women to go out there, start a business and get the money that they need to grow their businesses. Wow. Even when you're going before investors, there's been a lot of challenges where we have to provide some form of gender sensitivity training because of the fact that women most likely are deemed incapable of growing the business to the success that it needs to be. I've had women entrepreneurs tell me that they will go before an investment group, and then that investment person might tell them, so do you have a male on your team? Is someone else leading this with you? And it's just like, why does she need that to validate that she can run and grow this business successfully? But unfortunately, these are the general walls that we hit as women. There's expectancies for us to be at home, having babies, being married, and taking care of the household. But we're more than that.
Wow, that's amazing. You made mention of our.
Yes.
Right. You are lead project, right? What are you doing to level the playing field for women when it comes to
great question? I love it. So AWA stands for African Women Amplified, and this was birthed out of a gender lab experience that we had. So I'm a member of a group called ANDY, and that's the Aspen Network for Development Entrepreneurs. And so they invited myself and about 14 other leaders within West Africa that work in different aspects of entrepreneurship, from finance to ESOs. And during this time, we were working with MIT D Lab to go through this participatory design process to understand what exactly were the gaps that women were filling, right, in entrepreneurship. And the truth be told is that we have challenges when it comes, again, as I mentioned earlier, with financing. We even have challenges when people start incubators or accelerators or programs that sometimes the curriculum is not gender focused, where it speaks to the woman or allows the woman to succeed as well. You have a lot of these little gaps. And then from a policy perspective as well, we find that startup culture here, again, doesn't typically favor the woman or have equity, where we see that particular balance, right? And it's not to say that everything should be geared towards the women, but we need something or instruments in place to ensure that the woman is also elevated just as equally as the man. Right. And so with AWA, during this design, we came up with just this concept of what if we had a platform that had all of the features that a woman needed, that she can do just straight from her home, from learning, how to start her business, the tools that she needs for governance and structuring her business, having the due diligence component being done on this platform, so that when investors see this entrepreneur, they can say yes without all of the red tape and the confusion. And that's where AWA was born. And so from that, I was able to get a grant through USAID and Andy of about $100,000 to build this platform out. I was one of 11 projects that was selected. And this was an amazing feat because it took a lot of work to think through what we can really build that will support women, but not be something that we're just throwing into, the already like busy atmosphere of just everyone's doing something for entrepreneurs. We wanted to see how we can create that connector.
So what is your uniqueness out?
Our unique value proposition with AWA is the fact that we're actually incorporating artificial intelligence as a way in which we can create a recommender system that once the woman onboards into the platform, no matter her level, whether she's in her idea stage, she's an early stage entrepreneur or mature, there's a learning path for her to help her increase or enhance her business. And then on the other side of the platform, we have investors, potential financial services, people who are acting as mentors and advisors who will undergo some gender sensitivity training from the platform to understand how to engage the entrepreneur. And then the system will do those matches, those recommendations for them to say, here's what you need to grow your business. And our hope is that, again, when people come onto AWA, they can find all the entrepreneurs maybe that they didn't get a chance to see before. Right. And the other thing that's unique about us is that we're making sure we're inclusive. So this is geared towards both Anglophone and Francophone speaking countries.
Okay, so just Ghana?
Not just Ghana. So we're focusing right now on West Africa.
Okay.
So all 16 countries within West Africa right now. And so the idea is that with these women, we recognize that it's not just for the educated or learned women, it's also for the women who are in the rural areas. So we're creating offline capacities and partnerships with local hubs that exist so that the women can come there and get the support that they need as well. So we're trying to make sure everyone is to the fold and their businesses can be amplified and they can get the resources they need to grow their businesses to the next level.
Let's talk about where you've been on ground so far in those rural areas.
Yes, so for us right now, we're actually in beta mode. So as I mentioned, this is like a tech platform and we've been testing and building, working with our local developers to make sure that this actually, again, is this shining example of what's needed for women. We're launching the app and the platform formally this December. So December 10th in Accra, we're launching. We're going to also do a launch in Lagos. And then in January, we're going to do a soft launch in Senegal and also in Cote d'Ivoire. So we are moving steadily and hoping that more and more women join the platform.
Now, let me ask, even though it's not launched yet, I know you have several ways you guys have anticipated and planning on ways to expand it, even make it way bigger. West Africa, maybe we add East Africa. So what way are you guys planning on that?
Definitely. So it's all about partnerships. So right now, of course, as a funder and partner, we have a really great relationship with Andy. We're doing this. I am a researcher, so this is also a research project to understand how women or how a solution like this supports women in hopes that we're influencing policy. So we're going to hopefully get more government heads involved in what's happening so that they can also introduce it to their entrepreneurial ecosystems in their countries. So that's where we're beginning to go forward as far as like our diffusion of the project. And we're also going to be holding our conversations. So it'll be something that we'll be doing across various regions to talk about the challenges and the solutions that are available for women and how the platform can support them as well.
And you made mention of digital, artificial intelligence. Why was that so important
in
solving entrepreneurship problems?
Because the world is moving towards this huge kind of technological shift. And we know that our continent is slightly behind, right? The world where we're seeing digital penetration is about 30%, whereas Africa is about 18%. So yes, we're aware that, digital like smartphones don't exist in every household, but we're hoping that we can push that further with creating a resource such as this that has those features that we can take from the smartphone and transition to a YAM phone. We're trying to make sure that we're doing these particular features so that, again, we can eventually transition it to something like a WhatsApp, that it could be a use case for them. So there's so many ways that we're trying to reach even the person that's in the most outer skirts of a community through technology. And we want to make sure that technology like this does exist and is being used in a safe and ethical manner to support the change that needs to happen for women entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's a lot, guys.
It's heavy.
I would love to hear more. I would love to be there. It's happening in December.
December, yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes. So the idea is that you'll be getting invites soon. You'll be there.
Okay.
So the idea behind it is that we're creating an inclusive kind of activated experience. So we're going to have somewhat like, excuse the word TED, but TED-like talks from women entrepreneurs sharing their solutions. We'll have some, guest performances. And so we're working right now to kind of secure a few more venues that we'll have for the location because we want this to be big, almost like a mini festival. So that we can celebrate women and then also have everyone that comes into that capacity walk out feeling as though they learned something and they earned a new connection that can transform their business.
So what should I expect when I come there?
Hey, you should expect a really, really good time, first and foremost. So you should expect the ability to see amazing businesses that we'll have on display, exhibiting their businesses. We'll have phenomenal guest speakers coming to speak. And also, like I mentioned, we'll have just amazing performances that will amplify the women. So from poetry to those who are the musical arts to just DJ. So come hoping to experience what it feels like as a woman and as an advocate or an ally of a woman, how you can support them in growing their businesses.
But we need more information. How do we get there? How do we register?
So follow us first and foremost.
Okay.
Here we go. Thank you for pushing me there. So follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn and Twitter. So you'll find us on social media with Instagram under African Women Amplified. On Twitter, you'll see us as the Our Community. And on Facebook, it's also the Our Community. And on LinkedIn, African Women Amplified. Now, you should also sign up to our website. And yes, it's open for men and women, so don't feel like Our is just for women alone. But you can sign up www.africanwomenamplified.com. There's where we'll be releasing all of the dates for you when it comes to the event, all of the activities. We'll also be sharing, giving you sneak peeks to those who are going to be the guest speakers and exactly, hey, for like you're asking, what you can expect that day. So please do follow us on social media. Join in with us by registering on the Our platform, and we hope to see you there December 10th.
You are packed with knowledge.
Yeah.
And a lot of portfolio. You're also the CEO for Echo
Launch. Yeah.
How many things are you doing at the
I'm
same
doing
time?
everything. I'm tired. No, I was kidding.
Women empowerment. You
Yes.
as a woman growing up in the US, your parents gave you something.
Yes.
And that's why you are who you are today.
Yes.
Walk us through. People are watching, the African youth are watching you. They're like, wow, this woman is powerful.
Yes.
If someone wants to be like you, what do they need to do?
I would say first and foremost, do not aim to be like me, but aim to understand yourself, right? Who you are and your unique value that you give to the world. That's the most powerful thing that you can do. And that's what it took me, understanding this unique identity that I had, which is the fact that, yes, I was born in the United States, but I come from a really strong lineage and a rich African history that spans across Ghana, trickles into Liberia. We have a mixture of who I am. My grandfather, my late grandfather, he was also a lecturer, a professor here in Ghana, you know, and then also taught in Liberia. So all of these stories are representative of who I am, right?
Wow.
And who I became. So I look at it like that. So the young people there know who you are and where you're growing to be. And even if you felt as though I'm connected to the continent, maybe I didn't grow up there, maybe I wasn't born there, find a way to bring yourself back home. Get your feet on the ground. Feel it and understand where you fit in and how that weaves into your actual identity.
You believe Africa is the future?
I believe Africa is the future 110%.
So the Ghanaians youth stay there, they want to go to the US.
Hey,
what is
stay
here? Really?
They need to stay here. I know.
They're very hungry.
They're angry.
Angry, yeah. And they're like, listen, we want to go to the US, UK because it's promising. But you are saying quite the opposite, that everything is here.
So it's the thing about it is that promise to me essentially exists in where you're able to actually plant seeds and water them and make them grow. In America, there's no guarantee that you're going to go there and be as successful as you think. That's
Really?
what people don't understand. And the reason why I say that is because what's good about America is definitely if you have your education and you have your network, that's your power, right? And if you understand how to leverage that, that's where we see success. So if you have a skill that's valuable to someone, that's where we'll see success.
Wow.
Right? And yes, I understand, and I definitely agree and understand why the youth here are angry, because we do need to hold many people in leadership accountable. But at the end of the day, we're moving more and more towards a leadership that's eventually going to die out. So who's coming to lead? If everybody's going to the United States or the UK, who's leading here? We're left to ruins. So it takes a risk. I was willing to take the risk to come home. It's not easy. It's not I'm sitting here and saying, oh, you know, we're making this so beautiful. It's amazing every day. Yes, I get frustrated while I'm here.
Really?
Absolutely, I'm
Let's
frustrated.
talk about the challenges.
Oh, you want to talk about the challenges?
Moving to the continent. It is very important.
It's challenging.
I don't think it's all sunshines and rainbows.
It's
You have
not
a
at
lot
all.
on your plate.
Definitely.
I can understand the frustrations. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Establishing this kind of amazing brands here.
Yeah.
Working with our. What were some challenges you experienced even trying to do some stuff like that?
Absolutely. Great question. I mean, there are challenges here. And I look back to our government for that because we need stronger or better infrastructures to cultivate businesses. Taxes are high for businesses that typically start. I know that NEIP, and a really big shout out to NEIP for this, has established something for those who are under 35 to get a tax holiday. And that's good. And that's a start, but we need more. right? When I started my office, even finding just general laborers to come and build without someone coming to overcharge you for something is something you have to just be cautious of playing the game. They'll hear the American accent and all of a sudden we now see dollar signs. We don't see cities anymore, we see dollar signs. So that's on us as a people as well. So yes, we can say the government has to do the right thing, and I hold them accountable to doing the right thing, but it's a mixture between government, it's a mixture between academia. What are we teaching in our schools? What curriculums exist in our schools? Which is why I'm pretty fond of the work that we're doing at Ashesi to ensure that this type of thinking, critical thinking, entrepreneurial mindsets are being cultivated. There are a number of universities that are now coming up and doing the same thing. Even our principled universities are here doing that, adding more incubators like the University of Ghana. So we're seeing this movement, but we need to make sure that as we see it, there's connections. It's no longer like fragmented, if that makes sense, right? Because everybody's trying to do something, but we need like a very systematic, unified approach to how we cultivate entrepreneurship here. And that means that, again, young people, I know it's hard. I know it is hard, and I'm not saying in any way that this is easy or that with me coming from the United States, oh, I did it, so you should be able to do it. It's not, but it takes a particular mindset, right? That you can believe in yourself, that you have the capacity to transform. But even if, let me say this, even if you do grow abroad and you choose to go do your master's, your PhD, whatever it is abroad, come back home, right? Bring that knowledge here so that we can use that to really build and create, and of course, become the next leaders that we envision, our country having to see the success, because it's really honestly about leadership. If we have poor leadership, or leaders who are selfish, leaders who think in the short term, leaders who are not thinking beyond of where we could be, then where do we expect to go? We're seeing the effects of leadership or good leadership in countries like a Rwanda, right? We're seeing that happen, that yes, it can happen for an African country as well. So there's no reason for us to run to these places. They're doing great, but we also have to realize that they've been around for a longer time as well. They've had a longer runway. And they've built their countries in different ways. I won't get into all of that, but they've built them and they've had the time. Whereas, unfortunately for us, a lot of our countries were colonized, oppressed, and a lot of the way in which our traditional methods, our capacities were also kind of taken away, right? And we need to come back to that and understand our strengths and value that we can create here to see something good happen. So I'm all for it. I don't say don't get your education, explore. I do want to see more global minds, because you have to see what's happening in the world to come back to see how you could have a creative approach. But let's not throw away our own country.
Beautiful. What makes you most proud about being on the continent and being a Ghanaian?
It's the people.
The people
make me most proud. I mean, it's a catch-22. My people also frustrate me sometimes, but it's not all of them. But I mean, when I go into my university and I see the eager minds that are there, the creative minds that are there, the excited students, even the students who don't want to do their work, it's okay. All of them make me proud because I see the future in them. There's so many young people that are building, that are creating, that are trying, and they need someone like myself and others who are here to invest in them, whether it's time, whether it's their network, or even whether it's their money. That is what's going to help the young people move forward. And so I'm proud to see that most often, is that creativity, making something out of nothing, where the world has discarded you and told you, you all are worthless, or excuse my French, we're the S-hole country, continent, right? How do we change that? And I feel like that power is here, and it's hidden, it's been in ruins, but we're emerging.
So is that what made you become a lecturer?
Absolutely. What made me become a lecturer was the question why, and the pathway into understanding why things are happening and how they're happening. So those big questions for me are what's prone in academia when you're trying to conduct research and understand how systems work or behaviors are happening. What is that thing? And so I want to be able to contribute to that. So beyond just the work that I'm doing through AWA, through Echo Launch, even through my work at FIE, it's more than that. It's now, how do I make sure I'm contributing in a way that lasts and others can take from that, learn from it, and we can build and continue. I want to create the foundation. Even if in my lifetime I don't see the greatness that I envision for my continent, I want it to be there because I created something someone else can take and be great with. That's what I want to see.
So you are part of the brain gain.
Oh, I'm part of the breakdown. 110%.
People are watching from the diaspora. They're
Yeah.
like contemplating. Should I make a move? I want to come contribute.
Yeah.
But most of them are scared.
Ah.
You know.
Yeah.
Let's address the misconceptions that is causing this scary Africa thing, and then what they have to do differently in order to make that bold step to come to the continent.
So here's something I often say, and it's maybe not as popular. I came here because of purpose. I came here because I had a vision. I came here because I saw an opportunity. For those that don't quite see it all the way, there's the misconception that you'll come here and either you're gonna change the world in one night, or you're gonna come here and become the world's wealthiest individual, or perhaps the negative misconception is you'll come here and you'll lose everything. So there's these three perspectives, but I'm of the perspective that we need more of us everywhere. So even if, let's say, you don't choose to move back home, you're gonna stay in the United States, you need to find something or someone you care about here that you can connect with and build with, share resources, create that bridge, so that even if you're working from wherever you may be, you're connected to somebody here who's on the ground. Partnerships. That's critical. To me, you don't have to physically move back, right? But you need to find a way to be invested.
Your money can move.
Your money can move. Hello. Your money can move, and so can your mind, right? That asset that you have. So yes, if we're seeing challenges within policies here, and you work within a particular country that has a really strong economic policy, choose to come here and volunteer some of your time to work. I mean, that is something that's very aspirational. It's not to say that it can work, but find a creative way to create a solution. So even if you come and you guest lecture at a university with the insights that you have, that's giving your time. And you do it every year, every other semester you switch and you do something of that sort, that's giving your time. If you come here and you start, let's say, an NGO, you could do that, give it to a young person to lead, right? And then you're managing it from abroad. And you're making sure things are moving the way that it needs to happen. You can come here, purchase some land, make sure that if you have the financial resources, you can create some form of affordable housing for people. Whatever it is that you need to do, find your thing. That's why I said in the beginning, it's so important to understand who you are, right? Because this move isn't for everyone, because it is challenging. It's not easy to be back home all the time. There are days where you can get frustrated. But the reality here is that, again, if you come with purpose and intent, there's ways in which you can build. More realistically, if you're coming here, Ghana in particular is very expensive. Very, very expensive. And so it's not something financially you can just make the decision at the snap of the hand to drop everything and come. Because you need to have either a nice nest egg of some sorts, you need to have very limited debt in the United States, meaning your revolving credit cards, all of that paid off in some way. And you're coming here particularly, you know, in a very flexible situation. I have some friends who've moved back and they're still doing remote work, you know, back home or wherever it may be. Exactly, to earn the income that they need to live a particular way that they expect. And even if you don't want to adapt to your usual lifestyle, but being mentally prepared to adapt to a lifestyle that's different from what you may have experienced somewhere else. All of that is important to take into consideration before you come back.
But what about those who said, I want to be on the continent physically?
Yeah.
How much money do I need for
So if you're coming to the continent, you know, physically, I couldn't, looking at inflation right now, I couldn't give you the figure, hands down. But I would say that understand how much it costs you to live in the States. Have that plus 1 year. Okay, so if you were living, we do that in the States anyway, right? Is the fact that you are not financially secure unless you definitely have some sort of nest egg or savings that can keep you for at least a year and beyond, right? We say a year to start off, maybe 2-3 years. If you're lucky, you have that type of job, or you're saving rather conservatively. Take that and then bring that here. Have in mind, all right, within the first year, can I make the necessary connections, establishment that I need to have that can support me for year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And so that's what had to happen for me as well, is right when I got here, I was boots on the ground. What do I need to do? How do I fix myself financially, right? To make sure that I'm bringing things in that can support me. And that's why I work so hard. right? I do so much because somebody would be like, oh, you're privileged. You came from America with your little money and you started and it's easy for you. That's not true. Understand? I came from a working class family. I came from a single mother when I was in the United States. And particularly, I worked for not-for-profit organizations when I was in the United States because that's just my heart. So I'm not coming from this place that was paying me 6 figures and all of these things. I'm coming from a place that rewarded me based off of my work ethic. You understand? And so with that being said, coming here to Ghana, that same work ethic is what's keeping me because I've managed to get grants, funding to support all of the ventures, the visions that I have. And that's really what's sustaining me is that level of work. It takes a lot. I'm tired. Ask my friends. I don't really party. I don't go out. I'm really? Constantly working. So if I'm not reading, if I'm not writing, if I'm not building, if I'm not in a meeting, if I'm not teaching, then that little time and space that I have is for family and for church. There you go.
Wow, that is beautiful. Let me ask you, you've been here almost 5 years.
Yes.
What would you say has been the greatest lesson Ghana has taught you so far?
So many lessons Ghana has taught me. Ghana has taught me that we used to say in the United States, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
Wow.
The truth is, if you can make it in Ghana, you can make it anywhere, to be honest, because I have had to tap into some skills that I have not had to use,
Really?
in the United States. Just thinking on my feet, being a little bit more street smart in the way that I navigate or handle my business. Understanding that, of course, if you don't have the networks or the uncle or auntie in position, how then do you make things happen? Right? How do you hold others accountable in their positions to do their jobs? So when you're going in to go file or register your business, making sure people are on it, right? So you don't get lost in the hodgepodge of mess that can happen sometimes. So Ghana has forced me to exercise particular muscles that I didn't have to use before, but it's made me stronger and it's made me a stronger entrepreneur and it's made me more resilient to withstand challenges. Because who hates their power going out? Even right now, I'm scared. Is the power going to go out? What's going to happen? As I'm doing my work, as I'm doing my business. But, these are the little things that are forced me to exercise.
I like that. You made mention of us raised by a single mother.
Yes.
Now, before we go there, do you consider yourself as a Pan-African?
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Now, the way you think is quite unique compared to some other people on the continent. Who instilled that in you? Would you say it's your mother? And how is your upbringing like in the US, being raised by a single mother?
Oh, definitely. My Pan-Africanist vision, my confidence in myself, all from my mother. Because my mother, like I said, in our growing up, she had the experiences where she was raised in Ghana, she was raised in Liberia, she was all over and had access to a number of resources and people who were learned. And, with my grandfather, like I said, being a professor already, she had access to those circles, right? And so in being in those spaces, for her, it allowed her to see the world differently from a Ghanaian. And it's not to say she came from a privileged background per se, but she had access to the knowledge, insights of what our country could be and should be by hanging around or being around some of these leaders. And so in that, with me, when we moved into, when we were in the United States, my mom was always involved in the community. She was a part of, GWAG, Ghanaian Women's Association of Georgia. We were a part of the Ghana Association. We were a part of all of these things. Even her best friend used to manage the Nigerian Association. And so she was a part of that and I'd be around them. So now I'm being exposed to Ghanaian culture, Liberian culture, Nigerian culture. All of this is within me. So, and then at the same time, I'm also experiencing my American culture. So who am I to have a perspective of saying one is better than the other? Who am I to have a perspective of saying that, people who come from a privileged experience don't understand I understand it all. My mother didn't have it easy, raising me. I grew up in Atlanta.
Okay.
So around Atlanta. So I was in a place, if you're familiar, Decatur, Stone Mountain, Atlanta. I grew up in kind of this metropolitan space. I was born in New York. I was raised a little bit in New Jersey. Okay. So again, I've had a really good regional experience within the United States. So, from that and those forms of exposure, they really molded me and my mindset. And again, being raised by a single parent is also a big important influence, because it means I'm not coming from money, right?
Yeah.
And that's another misconception people will have, is that you had it easy. You don't understand our problems. I understand everything. I won't go there, but I understand everything. And that's why I can empathize and understand with those who are trying to come up. And I also understand those who have made it in their perceptions and their livelihood, right? So it's a very, very diverse mindset that I have about experiences.
So you and your mom, who made the move to Ghana first?
I did. I made the move to Ghana first. She didn't know that I was planning to come to Ghana. I didn't tell anyone about my decision to come home. And the few that I did, at a time where I was like, I was asking someone, would you move back home? Everybody was like, no. Why are you planning to go back? And I'm like, oof, okay, excuse me. But I couldn't deny what I felt. And as I mentioned, I'm a woman of faith. So in praying in that capacity, I was like, well, God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, you make it happen. And because of the work that I had done in the United States, working with entrepreneurs, working in this development sector, working even with design thinking in some capacities, then there was an opportunity at Ashesi where they were looking for someone with that skill set. And as I was transitioning to academia, getting support or working through research, I was, in the process of going to pursue my doctorate. It worked out. So I came here, I think, just for a general visit. I brought my mother along. And then finally, when we were sitting down, I was like, I have an interview today. She was like, what? Where? I said, it's at a university.
Wow.
So, let's go. And she was like, what? How? What does this mean? And I said, we'll know what it means, once I get through the process.
Wow.
And fortunately enough for me, the interview went well. And for that start, it was the biggest shift of my life, where I had to sell things, plan things, like a complete switch. And I was just banking on this vision that I had, that I come here, I'm going to research, I'm going to study, I'm going to build and create. And 4 years later, here we are, where I have received a grant, $100,000 grant to build this platform for African women. I have opened up my offices, Echo Launch in East Legon, where I'm supporting other young entrepreneurs with their businesses, their brands. I've managed a $1 million grant to support the development of the Ashesi Venture Incubator. And I'm also working with in the capacity to build more innovation centers across other African universities through our education collaborative, where I'm consulting with these universities on how we build more of these creative minds and spark entrepreneurship. So I'm here and I'm doing the work 4.5 years later, and still in school, Lord, and teaching at the same time. It takes a lot of sacrifice.
That's a lot of things. I would like to talk to you about what we see behind us. Beautiful bags.
Yes, absolutely.
African made, right?
African made. So
tell me about it. It looks so beautiful.
Yes.
Is it made in Africa?
Made in Ghana.
Made in Ghana.
And this is actually produced by a former student of mine. Her name is Pearl. And so Pearl, her mother is actually a tailor as well, and taught her how to do the beadwork. And so when she learned this kind of unique patterning, she thought to herself, I can make a business out of this. And so she makes handmade fashion accessories, very luxury oriented. But beyond just making these pieces and this bead, and this is her ombre look of her hexi bag. Beyond just making this, she actually employs women within the Goma Fete area and region. So women who have actually had to leave school and can't move on to be employed, she employs them. And she teaches them how to make these patterns and produce these bags. So each of these bags are handmade, hand stitched. 100%. No machinery at all. And in it, she makes sure that she uses a particular suede inside, so that, again, that kind of gives a distinction, because we've actually, as she's been building this brand, we've seen more people try to pop up on the market and trying to produce this. But these are unique designs, and she's actually coming up with even greater designs to move to the market.
Wow, the quality is so high.
Yeah.
If you slap Chanel or whatever on that, I'll think,
exactly.
So beautiful. And I've seen that that's not the only art of brand you have. You have the one which is the Duku. So these are all outsourced brand.
No problem. So Echo Launch. So Pearl is actually a part of Echo Launch, which is, again, an organization or a company rather, that I founded to help local brands go global. And so I work with them on just strategy, business development, and we rethink kind of their marketing. And our plan is to get her into new markets and actually even more stock stocking in other Ghanaian spaces as well.
Okay.
Now, with the other brands that we have, I'm all about the connections with the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
So here at Eco Lounge, you can come to our offices in East Legon and come see our concept wall, which houses or stocks some of these brands.
Right.
So behind you, you also have the Mommy Wraps.
Mm-hmm.
So that is founded by a young entrepreneur, Janelle, who's actually of Ghanaian descent, based in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has her brand of head wraps that she's producing here. Last time she came, I connected her to a couple of artisans in Kumasi who are going to help her with the next leg of her head wraps.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have another brand here by a woman named Davida, who's a friend of mine in the United States. She's in Atlanta, and she has a brand called Caitlin and Adjoa, where she produces shea butter based types of beauty products. And she also has candles. And so she's based in the States, but will be moving back home. She's another brain gain that we're getting. We also have Jacqueline. So Jacqueline is a designer based out in Texas. And so she has her handcrafted jewelry that she has here as well. And then we also have Elam, who is the founder of Soka Lata Chocolates.
Yeah.
And that is a locally produced Ghanaian chocolate with a cocoa, fine premium cocoa here that she started up. And she's a chocolatier, and she has her brand housed here as well. And then we also have a gentleman here, John Francois of Asili Coffee. And Asili Coffee is also a locally sourced Ghanaian grown brand, homegrown coffee brand. We have El Nak Recycles, which is founded by Emma. And Emma is focused on sustainable fashion design. And so she goes to your home and collects unused or used clothing items and then repurposes them into fashion. And she also creates reusable tote bags. And then last but not least, we also have Samuel, who's the founder of Kania. And Kania Energy is providing energy for those in rural communities that can use solar light and solar rays to actually enhance their capacity to see. So this is something that she's doing, and we're working with her to create a consumable type of brand for the everyday user.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I know more people watching still want to move to the continent to do business. You've been here. You're also an advisor, I would say, a business advisor.
Yes.
What businesses do you think those watching in the diaspora can invest in if they want to make the move back and potentially would make profits without running at a loss?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's a number of them. For us, you have to think about the current demand and need.
Right.
So that can be from a capacity of even water. So getting into the sales or reproduction of any type of water sachets, getting into that, development of that. It can come with a higher capital overlay, but it is a need here. So there's a lot of water sources that you can go around that are even on the northern region of Ghana that you can get access to, as opposed to being kind of crowded here in Accra. Anything dealing with food. So of course, there's a lot of agriculture here. That's our number one export here our number one contributor to GDP here in Ghana. So when you're thinking about the lively stocks that we have here from cocoa, cassava, all of these are at your disposal to begin producing and creating and cultivating that with local farmers who have the expertise. So again, if you have the capital and you can connect with those who have the expertise, you can produce something great, because we need more Ghanaian produced exported goods. Thirdly, real estate. Now it's a challenge because you have to be careful of who's selling you the land. But again, when you get into that space, we need more spaces for people to dwell in, especially with people who are moving back. And so there's opportunity there, but again, being mindful of that land component. And of course, we're seeing a growing emerging space when it comes to the beauty industry. So anything kind of dealing with beauty, particularly for women here in Ghana, you can come here and start something in that space as well. Wow. So there's a number of ways that you can work.
Wow. Send a message to the African youth, women to be precise.
Yes. So for women, you can do it all, and don't feel as though you are limited to just simply being a wife or a mother. That's additional badges of honor, but you also have to be mindful of your purpose and what you're here to do, and make sure that you're cultivating that daily.
So I want to ask you, why was it so important for you to establish all those brands in Ghana? I mean, with the exception of our, your brand is a Ghana-based brand. Why did you choose Ghana? There's 55 countries in Africa.
Ghana is home.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I'm a Ghanaian. I was a Ghanaian when I was in America. I was a Ghanaian when I was in Paris. I was a Ghanaian when I was in Brazil. And I'm a Ghanaian, especially being home in Ghana. That goes through and through my blood. So for me, it's about legacy. What does that mean? What am I eventually preparing for my future children? What am I leaving behind? What am I building, even for those who aren't connected to me? What, again, can I leave for them to build upon and they create their own legacies? You know, it's much like I completely admire the founder of the university that I work at Chassis, that someone like that came home, saw an opportunity and said, what can I build? Even though it's the most difficult climate to do this in, what can I build? And being steadfast with that vision, it's amazing to see where the university has gotten to 20 years later, what it's producing, and the type of young minds it's helping to bring forth as to the type of leadership or the type of entrepreneurs that, you know, Africa needs. And I want to see more of that. So if I can be just like him or just like the others who have come home and done something, that's what matters most to me.
Do you feel like you're making more impacts on the continent than you did in the US?
Absolutely. I say this all the time. In the US, don't get me wrong, I was just as connected, motivated, doing similar work, but I'm not necessarily one of one, right? There's a lot of people who care, have the capacity, see a lot of NGOs, and it's easier to start things up and make them happen and make things happen. But when you come to our continent, and specifically our country, is the new frontier. Anything that you do and you do well, it has an exponential impact. That's greater than what I could have done in the United States. I can create an incubator space concept store in the United States. And yes, I'll support a few people here and there. But the moment I open something like this up in Ghana, and I mean, I'm just only a few months old with this, 2-3 years from now, God willing, if it gets to where it needs to be, you can see someone like Pearl, who's now not only just been a startup with her brand, but she's now employing 20, 30, 40 women who probably couldn't have gotten a job otherwise. That is the direct impact or this kind of domino effect I'm having by being here, because there are opportunities, ample opportunities for us to create. And if we create and we get it right, it's going to change everybody's life. Even what you're doing, right, is that same impact. At the end of the day, there's going to be some young creative that's going to say to themselves, well, Hayford is doing this, and now Hayford has created this, and I can do the same thing. And it's changing, and it changes the way we even create media.
Right.
Who's telling our stories? People like you are. No one else is controlling that narrative for us. You've taken the chance to create that. And if you did this in the United States, it's nice. It would have been cute. But the fact that you're doing it here and you're creating a narrative that we can control, you're bringing people like myself and everyone else who's come through your platform on, we're telling people the truth, right? We're telling people our stories. And yes, it can be riddled with some craziness here and there. But the reality is no one can tell this any longer for us. No one can no longer put an African child on television with a protruding stomach and flies on their face to say this is Africa, because it's not.
Wow. Thank you though. But let's talk about, you talking about bringing people, right?
Yeah.
You used to bring people to the continent.
I did.
And not just for tourism, but also to show them which kind of investment they should make.
Exactly.
Let's talk more about that.
Yes, I do a lot. Thank you, Hayford, for reminding me why I'm tired. So I have another leg of like my eco launch work, which is what I call a FIE. And a FIE is something I was doing. I started off somewhat informally. I actually started it in the States, where I would support first generation entrepreneurs with developing their businesses and thinking about how they can make those moves back home. And when I came here, I realized when I moved back, I had so many friends who were like, oh, I have a friend that wants to come to Ghana. Can they come talk to you? Can they be? And I'm like, yeah, sure, bring them. And I realized I can now bring more people home. Wow. So I'm focusing specifically on those people who maybe travel by themselves, solo travelers, people maybe who travel in pairs. They don't necessarily have like a huge group they want to come with, but they want to explore. And beyond just the tourism, they want to know, okay, how can I get plugged in, right? How can I connect with a Hayford, right? Or how can I connect with more entrepreneurs in this space and develop the partnerships I was talking about? So everything I do is very full circle and is very interconnected. And so even this Christmas, I'm bringing a group here, a small group that's also coming to enjoy, understand the culture, and hopefully get exposed in a way that they too will make plans to form those partnerships or eventually move back.
What keeps you going when time gets tough?
What keeps me going when time gets tough? That concept of legacy. I'm a former Acumen Fellow, West Africa Fellow, and we had someone share that we are our ancestors' dreams, right? We're living them out. So for my great grandmother, grandfather, everyone that has come before me, they did what they did so that I could be here.
Right.
What am I doing for the children or the youth that will come behind me? And that's what keeps me going every day, is the fact that it's no longer about me. You know, I can win all the grants, I can get all of the accolades or whatever you want to call it. And I've gotten accolades, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I can't take any of that with me, but it's about what I leave behind.
Wow.
So that keeps me going because it's a legacy.
Wow.
What am I doing? What am I doing with everything that I obtain? You understand? And that's our problem with leadership, is that people don't think in that capacity.
Very true.
I have all of these things at my disposal, but if it's only for you and your family, what good does it serve the people? And so if it takes one of me and others who think like me, I'm happy to do the work.
Beautiful.
And I think that that's why I don't stress in the sense, or I don't struggle. It's hard work, but I feel like I'm blessed because that is my intention and it's nothing else.
Wow, I like that. Let's talk about how you won the 100K grant.
Hey, 100K.
100K.
Yes,
and
Lord.
that is US dollars you're talking about.
US dollars. It's not easy. It's tough. Yeah. So, you know, with the 100,000, typically when you're going for grants, it's all about your impact and long-term, what are you intending to do with this funding, and how does this funding, again, cause kind of that ripple effect. So again, being a part of that gender equity lab experience, one, put me above, you know, those who may have been applying from outside. Two, working with an amazing group of team members who were thinking through this process with me, helped me to develop the final instrument of this tool, this platform that is now AWA. So together with those minds, that initial training, we were able to really put together a really strong application to receive that $100,000. And there's more to come.
Wow.
Still grant writing right
You are a very powerful, smart, intelligent young woman.
Oh, I love those things.
Now, someone is watching. The men are also out there.
Hey,
like,
these men.
This woman, who is a lucky man? Who is a lucky man?
I'll just say yes, there is a lucky person.
It's a lucky man. Wow, that's beautiful. I'm proud of her, you know. Guys, if you're enjoying the show, please, I want you to do one thing, okay? Subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe to the show. If you love it, why don't you subscribe? Like the video, share to friends and family. Don't be selfish. I'm also going to leave all your socials on the screen.
Thank you.
And always feel free to slide in the DM. Also, go check out the main page. I'm going to post everything on the screen. Yeah. Now, if you do have a last message for the people watching, what would that message be?
That message would be build better bridges. I say that that's important because, you know, in our community, there's a lot of discord, discontent about being African, being African American, and these conversations that sometimes can almost cause some form of division. We need more bridges, right? So that we can amplify our stories, that we can amplify our purpose, and we can build a community or just a continent of people or a diaspora of people who are empowered or just highly capable of doing the things we need to do to see success. Wow. So build those better bridges.
Will you say you moving back to the continent has been worth it for you?
I would say so far it has been worth it. Yes, many sleepless nights have come, but it has been worth it.
No regrets?
No regrets at all.
Wow. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, this is the end of the episode, and please, one more time, if you did enjoy the show, please like the video, share to friends and family, and subscribe. I'm going to leave all the socials on the screen, how you can find her, see the projects she's working on, also in the description. Always feel free. If you are interested, please just go ahead and network. You are interested in moving to the continent, doing business, you don't know who to talk to, trust me, 5 years of experience, no joke. Anyone who can stay in Ghana for 5 years, trust me. It comes with a lot of experience. Always feel free. And if you want to share your story with us, I'm going to leave an email on the screen, webnationafrica@gmail.com. Send me a message and you might be the person to share you might be the one to share your story on the platform. So without further ado, let's say bye-bye to them.
Bye-bye.
Bye.